Hi everybody, welcome back to Flames Pyro Art for Beginners. Today, well, we've got some chance for a little while. I thought we would start looking at doing this wood burning of Dobby. I transferred out some of his outlines last week and just haven't had a chance to get round to it, but today we've got a bit of time, so I thought we'd make a start on looking at a bit of a human sort of character. It's not human, but you know, it's a facial structure that we can get some good teaching from. Today I thought we'd make a start by looking at his ear, so that's what we're going to concentrate on today. I'm using the medium space shader from the Optima, and I've got my setting just heating up around 2.5. So I will put a reference photo of this Dobby character at the start of this tutorial, so if anybody does want to burn along with it, you're more than welcome to burn with me. On this image we have some depth to this ear that we want to capture early on. We've got the main branch of the ear, but underneath, where there's less light getting to that area, we can begin showing some depth immediately by casting a shadow. I'm just waiting for some other things to dry in the shed before I start the process of sanding down a large piece of wood, which I'm going to have a little talk to you all about at another time, about wood preparation. That is a big part of pyrography, is getting your wood as super smooth as possible, and then you'll be able to create some magical work on your wood. It's no good having a rough piece of wood, say, you know, when you buy your pieces of birch ply or whatever wood you use in the USA or wherever. It's no good burning on it when it's rough. You have to sand the wood through the different grits. I mean, you can go up to, like, I don't know what it is, it's like 2,500 grit sandpaper, which is the like super smooth. I mean, this wood is really smooth, so your pens glide really nicely on your wood. So preparation of your wood is a big factor in pyrography. Always sand the wood as smooth as you can possibly get it, and then you will be opened up to a whole new world of the amount of detail you'll be able to apply to your wood burning. With our Dobby here, the shadow that's coming from underneath his main ear is quite dark, so at the moment we're just blocking in, we're just putting some colour down, some shading down. We don't want to touch the main ear at the moment, we're just looking at shadow, just looking into them dark recesses where there's no light getting to the piece. Looking on Dobby here, in his ear, there's a lot of dark patches where there's no light getting to it. So this one's a nice, easy beginner's piece. Is wood burning Dobby. You can wood burn Dobby to a good standard, then you're well on your way to creating some amazing pyrography art. It teaches you a lot about the basics of the depth perception and shape and contour. Does Dobby, because he's obviously is an elf and he's unusually shaped and he's got all these wrinkles on his forehead and he's a character. I know a lot of people really love Dobby, don't they? So I thought this might be a nice one for maybe some of the beginners who we have in the group to have a look at wood burning along with me. Again, still at the moment we're still just putting in the deepest shadow. So what I'm going to do, I'll turn the heat up to 3 because there's 2 tones of shadowing on this ear of Dobby's. We've got the much darker point, which I've put a line where that ends, and then there's a lighter shade of shadow being cast. So to start with, we'll put in this darkest shade. Push this part of the ear back because this is curled up and under his ear, so there's no light getting there. And if you remember the rule, where there is less light, it must go darker. And that rule is attributed to Darrell Tank. He's a absolutely amazing pencil artist. I think he does many different mediums of art, but that was a rule I learnt of him very early in my pyrography learning stages, was where there's less light getting to an area, then it must go darker. And it's just common sense really, isn't it? I suppose, but it's something we can miss, and then we miss the opportunities to really show the depth to the work by not following that rule. If we follow that rule, I can guarantee you will have so much more depth and dimension to your work, just by doing something as simple as that, where there's less light getting to an area, it must go darker. So we're creeping up to the edge where the lighter shadow will be cast in a minute. Remember to keep moving your board around as you work. Don't always have to keep the board straight in front of you. If you need to move it to get at an area, then certainly by all means I would suggest move your board. You know, don't get your hand in a position where you just can't get at things. Sometimes if you're working on an extremely large piece of wood, then it's a bit of a challenge. But with a nice small piece like this, you can easily move the circular board around. did finish the Viking piece, and I put some words and everything on it, and I gave it to my son Thomas for his 18th birthday. And he said he was happy that he received it. Right, so we're working our way down. Just this, what we call blocking in. Now, in here, there's an area here where it goes inside Dobby's ear, and the line goes somewhere out to here. And again, there is no light being cast out, because the light this time is coming from this direction. He's looking that way, and the light is coming at him from this way. So all the shadows this time are cast differently. You can see having your pen on heat setting 3, now it's heated up. It's given quite a dark tone to the wood, so I've just turned it down a fraction so I can keep control of the heat, and so it's not bleeding too much, because you will see you will get heat bleed if you have your pen too high. And whichever way you're moving your strokes, let's say if I've got my pen this way and I'm working with 3/4 tip down here, I am going to bleed some heat below. So that is something you have to bear in mind, is work, you know, I certainly wouldn't, if I was doing this dark patch on the ear, I would not be coming at it from this direction, because then any heat bleed I'm getting is coming up onto the trunk of the ear that I don't want to wood burn at the moment. I don't want to do anything to that, so I don't come at it from this direction. You have to come at it from this direction. Hope that makes sense. So you turn your board a little again. Working pretty much with 3/4 of the tip touching down at the moment. Trying to get a nice even burn stroke, you know, an even tone of shading. And that's another skill that you need to develop as time goes on, is your blending of your values. You know, you can't just go from, well, depending on the subject, you can't go from pitch black to nothing. You know, you have to gradually blend out your shade. So at this point I know his ear is shaping in this way, so I can afford to burn in this direction, because any bleeds coming on the inside. And just gently, just smoothly working my way up. And when we get to near Dobby's full ear canal, it actually circles off in like this direction. And in here is where the least amount of light is being cast, because it's right in his inner ear lobe. Excuse me on the e-cig. I wonder if any of you could ever leave me a comment and let me know what type of wood burning you're interested in. You know, what you'd like to have a look at. Maybe things you're struggling with, or you know, you'd like some tips on a particular subject or form of art that you enjoy doing, and we can have a look at it together. If you'll leave me a comment. So we're still at this stage, just blocking in. Right, and we can go a little further before the tone starts to change. As we start coming out into the light more in a moment, we need to adjust the heat. We'll turn it down now, we'll turn it down to number 2. Take all the heat out of the pen by dabbing it on my strap. It just sucks all the heat out of it. Just like touching down on, say, your piece of wood that you have at the side of you that you can use for testing the heat that you're getting out of your pen. I just touch down on my leather strap and just take all the heat out of the pen. Okay, now we have to follow on Dobby. He has a fold, like a rim to his ear. That runs all the way round. So we must show that has been stepped forward just by putting a shadow underneath it. And it just falls away to the bottom of his ear. It doesn't go all the way down, it just runs so far. As we start getting more into the piece, we'll start refining the ear more and more. Okay, so here's where the shadowing is now changing value. We're coming out from the dark and we're slowly coming into a bit more light now. And I did mark out the area where that begins. So we had a reference point. Down. Been looking as well. Another thing I thought I'd talk to you about today is choosing your reference picture. That's another topic that can be discussed. Is some images just won't be right for wood burning, for pyrography art. There's certain images that you'll just look at them and you say, wow, that would look amazing as a piece of pyrography. And then there are other images that wouldn't look so good as a piece of pyrography art. So that is another thing. So I was looking through Shutterstock this morning to try and find some other good images for us to study together. Okay, let's have a look. So I've made a mark here. If you see, this is another shadowing point on Dobby's. These funny shaped ears. There's lots of shadows cast on him, does Dobby. He's a really good piece to learn on. And here with his funny shape of his ears, let me see if I can find the reference image. I don't know where I've put it, to be honest. Here we are. Here it is in large. This is just a larger blocky image of it. So as you see, he has his darker area of his ear here where there's no light casting. Then he's slowly coming out into the light. Then down here he has like another sort of funny shape to his ear with more shadow being cast up there. A little bit of shadowing cast here. A little bit, he's got a ridge here where he's casting shadow where there's a fold. So here, and we have to pay attention to which side the shadow is being cast from. On the edge of his ear, he has a little fold there. And then running along this line with another shape to his ear. And at the very edge of that shape is the darkest point. For some reason on my reference photo it's got this smoky bit across his ear. Yeah. I think it's just the way whoever's taken the picture just casts a light. I mean, all these values, they'll all change as we keep working on the piece. Okay, then on his ear also, I haven't marked out here, there is another dip in the ear with a bit of shadow being cast off it. Remember, the shadow's coming from, the light's coming from this side, so all the shadow is being cast to this side. And then along here his ear runs down. Try and find your reference points, because when I marked this out I didn't put every little detail that I needed in. It's much like building a jigsaw. As you work along, you start building more and more pieces to your jigsaw. Let's just get this last bit really tight up there. So this is just blackness. There's just nothing there And then we get to his main ear in a minute, which branches here. And he has a lot of folds, does Dobby. So I'm going to have to swing it round, because one of his wrinkles is coming in from this way. Remember, always you move your board around when you need to. And I'm going to turn my heat down, because now we can rub out this pencil line. Excuse me. Now we look at his actual ear. So I want to turn the heat right down now, because I don't want to be anywhere near that value of shading when we start this. We were looking now at his actual ear, the skin. We obviously need to be a much lighter value than that darkness we put in, but we will need to darken up as we go. Let's just try and get some basic shaping. At the moment I'm just feeling out what we're doing. Keep looking at your reference picture, soaking it in. Remember, it's just building that jigsaw. All his ear has to have a tone to it, unless we're going to negative burn behind. His ear, but we're not on this occasion. We're going to actually make it look like skin. So we're just very lightly inside of that pencil line, just building some base shading. So remember, when we're doing skin tone, it's not about high end heat, it's about low end subtle differences in our heat. It's one of the big skills to pyrography, is them little subtle changes in value. And you see, as we rub out there, barely anything there, but I can very faintly see the shape of the skin. We want to keep it very light at this stage because we want to be able to capture any any folds or shape movements. We want to be able to capture them. And we capture them with a different depth of shading. So keep everything very light as you start your piece, so you don't go past the opportunity to be able to put in them little ridges and shapes and contours that make a piece look more three-dimensional. If you sprint at it, you could go past it, so that's why I like to say burn low and slow. So we creep away up to the finish line rather than sprint away there as fast as we can. That isn't the way I do my pyrography art, and I know a lot of the other really good artists will build into a piece. They won't go all in straight away. Here we've got some shape to the ear as it folds round a little. So there's a little bit of shadow being cast as this ear's coming round. These are the subtle values that I was mentioning. They may not look much to start with, and they will change in value, but early in the piece, keep them as light as you can. This piece of the shadow starts to fall away at the edge there into like a little bulge that comes off it. That's something we'll need to pay attention to down the line. As we know, the ear is shaping round, so we can add some of that look to it by adding the shading here now in this direction, moving with the direction that we want. piece to appear to be flowing in. If we start at the outside point, then when we touch down with the pens, the majority of the heat is going to go at the point where you want the darkest patch. You know, you want to go from dark to lighter. So if you touch down first, on the edge of the way you're trying to shape, the majority of your heat will go to the edge, and then you can just blend your way in, because the heat's been sucked out of your pen tip. As soon as you put it down on the wood, the heat's getting sucked out, and as you move your way in, you're getting less and less heat. As we lift off, the heat starts to build again in the pen. Then when we touch down, there's heat. If you move very quickly with your strokes, little dabs like this, then that does another effect. It'll just darken gradually, layering up the heat. You can get rid of some more pencil lines in a moment. It may look like I'm outlining, but I'm just adding very light tones so I can remove the graphite as soon as possible. And his Dobby's ear actually runs down on this reference photo, points down. There's quite a few different images of Dobby you can get if you look around on some of the image sites. This is just a piece of like fan art. We're not going to be selling it or anything. We're not using it for any big purpose. Instead, I do have a Shutterstock subscription where you can get 10 images a month downloaded that are fantastic quality. That's sort of like paying the royalty fee for the image, and then you can use them images for sale. But your likes of Pinterest, when if you take images off Pinterest and cut and paste them and save them to your device, if you want to sell them pieces, really you have to get the artist's permission. Pinterest is not a royalty free image site, but if you're just doing art for fun, then there's lots of images on there. No, now I was learning, I'd use it a lot for images. Okay, we'll put the light tone. Switch the board round. Put the light tone of skin value in there, so we can remove that pencil line. There's nothing wrong with having as many lines as you feel you need. There's no rule that says you can't stencil out every single bit that you want to wood burn. If you need all them pencil lines, put them in. When I'm doing pieces, I will put, if I'm doing a piece that someone's paying for, whatever, I will put a lot of structure point lines in. To help me to build what I perceive as the jigsaw. Right, let's have a look at the bottom of this here. So here, he has a line running up. Here's his eyeball shape coming round. With his fold of skin of his ear with all different, multi-layers in there before we get to the face. So there's a bit of work still to work out on this piece. some reason there's a horrible scar right there on the edge of the wood. Don't know where that's come from all of a sudden when I sanded this down really well. There's a line coming down there. I'm going to have to try and work with. And we've got an ear, very much like a human ear, where we've got this fold of skin around the outside. Dobby's got it. It runs all the way around. I've got my heat low and I'm touching down regular. Now my heat is transferring very lightly. It may even appear to your eye that I'm not actually adding any shade. I don't know what it looks like on a video. I'm going to remove this top pencil line in a minute as we get his skin toned in. Just a base tone. And remove that line. Remember, all these values have to go much darker. If you want the piece to look 3D, three-dimensional, then we have to do subtle changes in the skin where it's at its flat point and where it's coming round into the light. And for example, here on Dobby's ear, around here, he has a few little wrinkles. This is the actual skin of his ear now, the under part of his skin of his ear. It's got some little ruts in there. start shaping this here with the shading. I get so engrossed in any piece of art that I'm creating, I just love getting carried away and going into super fine detail. I just can't help myself. I can't just do a basic wood burn. I want to show as much detail as possible. And this blooming line right down here is not going to help it. It's not going to be a friend, put it that way. That little scar there that I must have missed, that just shows you, even though I thought I'd sanded the wood brilliantly smooth, I obviously didn't. I missed some. I'm hoping we're going to be able to work around it. And then with this part of his ear, it starts to step inwards and back. So we have another line here that is going to push the ear in. So if I move my board round, so I get it from the right direction. Just excuse me when I go quiet for a few minutes just while I'm working out what I'm trying to achieve. As I've just put basic lines in, I'm very much building the jigsaw as well. This goes off to a sharp point. And it actually touches down. Somewhere smack near the middle of this rut here. And with this little bit of more shape he's got here with light, with a shadow coming off, it then feeds out and blends away out to the ear. So the ear comes up and then bang, it hits this dark recess and then comes back out again. Then if we look at, let's get some of the bottom of the ear in, using now the side of the pen. These tools are really versatile. You can use them for so many different looks if you run the edge. Along a piece, you can add a little darker patch. To start showing your underneath part of the ear. This is one of my main favourite things about the medium space shader. It's so many different things you can do with it. It's brilliant. Just by switching your angle, you can capture so many different looks. Be able to get rid of this bottom line in a moment. It's a bit lighter down here. It's a bit of a fatter part of the ear. And we go off to a very thin part, and we could even turn the heat down just a tiny touch more. Just as we put the bottom fold of skin in, so we can get rid of the graphite lines. hopefully this time when I sand out, I'm not going to get any of them scars like that one. I'm going to switch rubber. Switch to my softer rubber. Okay, so just by adding, see, just this little touch, it's ever so thin. The little dark touch there, but later on in the piece that will give a perception of the bottom piece of the skin of the ear. And then of course we meet the face. And when we meet the face, we want to push that ear back. And it's a dark line. That runs up from this ear. And all will make sense as we go. This moment, let's push that ear back. What time are we on?